Welcome, traveller, to the village hearth. Come in. The summer day has been long and gold and generous, and even now, with the sun down, the warmth of it is still in the stones and the air and the backs of your hands. The dark is in no hurry. Neither tonight is anyone else. So you needn't hurry either. Settle in, get comfortable, and let your shoulders come down from wherever they've been keeping themselves. And whenever you're ready, let your eyes close, and let yourself drift off to our cozy little village, where the days are slow and everyone has a story to tell. You don't need to have been here before. The village has a way of making a person feel they have. Tonight we're going to spend our evening at the inn, the big warm one at the edge of the green, on one of those rare, soft summer nights when the whole village is somewhere else, and the inn, for once, belongs only to the woman who keeps it, and one sleeping guest. So make yourself warm, and let's begin. You will already know the inn, even if you have never set foot in it. Every village has one. The place at the center that the rest of the village leans toward without quite meaning to. The way a room full of people will slowly turn their chairs toward the fire. The lit windows you walk toward on a dark night. The door that is always somehow unlocked when you need it to be. In this village, the inn overlooks the green. It is old and big and warm clear through, the way some buildings simply are and others never manage, no matter how hard they try. It has good fires and better beds. It has a long bar worn smooth and pale by 100 years of elbows, and a great hearth at one end that has not been properly coaled in most living memory. The whole village ends up here, sooner or later, on most of the nights that matter. Travellers stop here and find they don't want to leave. And in all the long years anyone can call to mind, no one, not one soul, has ever once been made to feel unwelcome under this roof. That is a rarer thing than it sounds. A room can be warm and still not be kind. A place can have good fires and soft beds and still hold itself a little apart from you, still make you feel you've come in through the wrong door. This inn has never once done that to anyone. It takes you in the moment you cross the threshold, the way warm water takes you in, and it asks nothing of you, and it lets you be exactly as tired or as glad or as quiet as you happen to be. People say it's the inn. They say it the way you'd say a hill is steep or a well is deep, as a plain fact about the place, a thing the building simply is. It isn't the inn, or it is, but only the way a song is the instrument. The inn is welcoming because of the woman who keeps it, and her name is August, Innkeeper August Ashford, to give her the whole of it, though hardly anyone uses the whole of it. To her friends, while not working and out from behind the bar, she's just August, and she'll tell you so, kindly and at once. Just August, please. To the young people who work for her, she's innkeeper, and they say it the way a deckhand says captain, with a small straightening of the spine that they don't even notice themselves doing. She is tall, with dark hair pinned back out of the way of the work, and a pair of strong and capable hands that have carried kegs and stripped beds and poured out more cups of tea late at night, for more people having a hard time of it than anyone could ever count. She has a laugh that arrives before she can decide to have it, and she cannot, simply cannot, watch a thing be done badly and leave it be. On most nights you could not get near her. On most nights the inn is full to its warm brim, and August is everywhere in it at once. A word here, a hand there, the whole happy chaos of the place somehow arranging itself into order in her wake, though you could never quite catch her doing it. On most nights she does not sit down from the time the first guest arrives to the time the last one finds his bed. But tonight is not most nights. Tonight is a summer night, one of the first really warm ones, the kind the whole village has been waiting on through a long, slow spring. And on a night like this, the inn empties out. Not because anything is wrong, because everything is right. The evening is too soft and too gold to spend indoors, and so the whole village has drifted out of doors to spend it, the way people do when the weather finally turns generous. They're out on the green, most of them. You can hear it faintly if you stand near the open door, the low murmur of a great many people being happy somewhere not far off. Somewhere down there a fiddle is going, not very well and not in any hurry, the player as unbothered as the night. Children who ought to have been in bed an hour ago are still up, running the long blue dusk to its very end, because their parents haven't the heart to call them in from a night like this, and the children know it. There is cider going round. There is the smell of it, and of cut grass, and of the day's heat lifting slowly off the stones. And August has sent her own people out into it. She did it earlier, in the last of the light, in the brisk and final way she has when she's decided a thing and isn't going to be argued with. Go on, she told them. There's nothing here that needs you tonight, and there's a whole summer evening out there that does. Go and have it. And they went, not without a little protesting, because they're good young people, and they don't like leaving her with the place. But she has a way of making it perfectly clear that the matter is closed, and they know better than to push it. So out they went, into the warm, and the noise, and the fiddle music, where young people belong on a night like this, which leaves the inn very quiet, and it leaves August in it, more or less alone, on the one kind of evening when nobody in the whole village needs her to be anything at all. There is one guest in, up under the eaves, a traveller who came through tired and dusty in the heat of the afternoon and went up early, gladly, to a cool dim room and a good bed. He's asleep by now, surely. But August has left a small lamp burning low at the foot of the stairs all the same, turned down to the littlest flame, just enough that a stranger waking in an unfamiliar house in the dark would see at once which way was down and not be afraid. She does that without thinking. She has always done it. It is not really for the guest, who is fast asleep and will never know. It is just a thing she cannot not do, the same way some people cannot pass a crooked picture without straightening it. She tends. It's what she's made of. And so even now, even on her own quiet night, she is moving through the inn, doing the small last things. She wipes down the long bar, though it scarcely needs it. She rights a chair that someone left at an angle. She carries a single stray cup back to where the cups live, and squares the stack, and steps back, and looks at it a moment with her head on one side, and finds it good. She moves slowly. There's no reason to move quickly. There is nowhere she has to be, and nothing she has to be ready for. But she keeps finding one more small thing, and then one more after that, the way a person does who has spent her whole life with her hands full and isn't entirely sure anymore how to have them empty. There is a chair by the fire she keeps not sitting in. It's the good chair, the best seat in the whole place, and everyone knows it. And that is exactly why August almost never sits in it. It's the deep one, the soft old high-backed one set at just the right angle to the hearth, close enough for the warmth, far enough not to roast, turned a little toward the room, so that whoever sits in it can see the whole warm life of the inn going on around them. It's the chair you put someone in, the traveller who's come a long cold way, the villager who's had hard news, the tired, the sad, the chilled through, the ones who need, just for an evening, to be the most cared for person in the room. Sit there, August will say. Go on, sit there, and she'll have a cup in your hands before you've got your coat off. It is the kindest chair in the village. And tonight, with the village out under the stars, and no one in it who needs it, it sits by the fire, empty, warm, waiting, as it has waited, one way or another, for years and years. for whoever needs it most. August walks past it. She has a cloth in her hand. She's going to wipe down a table that doesn't need wiping. And then she stops. She stops because there isn't a table that needs wiping. There isn't, she realizes, standing still in the middle of her own quiet inn, a single thing left in the whole warm building that wants doing. The bar is clean. The chairs are straight. The cups are squared away and the lamp is low at the foot of the stairs. And the one guest is asleep with nothing he needs. And the fire is... She looks at it. The fire is exactly right. Burned down low and red and easy, giving off just enough light to make the room glow, and not 1 degree more of heat than a warm night can take. She didn't build it up. She didn't bank it down. It simply seems to have settled itself, over the course of the evening, into precisely the fire a person would want. The day is done. The work is finished. There is only the chair, and August stands and looks at it, and there is the smallest hesitation in her, the particular hesitation of a person who has spent her whole life on the giving end of kindness and has somehow never quite worked out how to be on the receiving end of it. It's an easy thing to pour the tea. It's a much harder thing for a certain kind of person to be the one the tea is poured for. She has coaxed 100 weary souls into that very chair. Go on, sit, let someone look after you for once. She would tell them, but she has never once said it to herself. The fire pops, softly. The light shifts, and the chair somehow looks even warmer than it did a moment ago. Deeper, softer, though nothing has moved and no one has touched it. August lets out a breath that is almost, not quite, a laugh. "All right," she says. "To the room, to the fire, to the old pale wood and the warm dark and the whole patient-breathing house. All right, I hear you." She rests her hand on the bar as she passes it, flat on the worn pale wood, the way you'd lay a hand on the flank of a horse you trust, her thumb moving once across the grain. And she crosses the room, and she sits down in the good chair. It takes her, the way it has taken so many before her, the deep, soft give of it, the warmth of the low fire just exactly right. Her hands, those strong, capable, endlessly busy hands, come to rest still and open in her lap, and she lets them. Her shoulders, which have carried this whole place and half this village for more years than she'll admit to, come down and rest. She is not doing anything. For the first time in longer than she can remember, on a soft summer night with the village happy out under the stars, August is not doing anything at all. And in the quiet, in the firelight, in the deep, familiar give of the kindest chair in the village, her mind goes wandering, the way a mind does. When you finally let it off the lead, it goes back along all the years she's kept this place, the 10,000 nights and the 10,000 fires, back and back to a thing she hasn't thought about properly in a very long time, a time when none of this was here. Not the warmth, not the good fires or the better beds, not the long pale bar or the great hearth that's never cold. She remembers when the inn was a different thing altogether, a sorry, cold, run-down sort of place, a roof that let the weather in, and a hearth that smoked, a building that had given up on itself some while back, and was only waiting, without much interest, to fall down. People stopped there because they had to. No one lingered. No one would have dreamed of calling it the heart of anything. She remembers being young, and standing inside it with the man who held the papers. He had been apologetic about it, though it was not his fault. People are often apologetic in buildings that have been allowed to go sad. He had pushed the door open with his shoulder because it stuck in damp weather, and when it gave way at last, the whole place had seemed to sigh around them, not with welcome exactly, but with the tired relief of something no longer having to pretend it was all right. "There she is," the man had said. in the voice people use when they are showing you a thing and hoping you won't look too closely at it. Needs work, of course. August had not answered him at first. There was a great deal to look at. The floorboards dipped slightly near the middle of the common room. One window had been patched badly with a square of cloudy glass that did not quite fit. The bar was scarred and dull, sagging faintly at one end, as though it had grown weary of holding itself up. The hearth was black with old smoke, and even cold, even empty. It smelled faintly of fires that had not drawn properly, and winters that had got in where they shouldn't. There was dust in the corners. There was damp near the back wall. There was a stain on the ceiling where the roof had let the rain have its way more than once. The man kept speaking gently beside her. He talked of price. He talked of repairs. He talked of what might be salvageable and what might not. He talked the way practical men talk when they are trying not to talk someone into something foolish. August heard very little of it, because under the dust, under the damp, under the old tired coldness of the place, she could see it. She could see the fire lit. Not the smoky, sulking thing the hearth had been making of itself, but a real fire, bright and steady and well tended, throwing gold over the stone and making the whole room lean toward it. The bar sanded smooth and pale. Bread and cheese set out for someone who'd come too late for supper. A chair by the hearth, not the chair that sits there now, not yet, but the idea of it, turned just so, waiting for someone who'd come a long way in bad weather and needed to be made warm before anything else. Travelers asleep upstairs under clean blankets, their cloaks steaming on pegs downstairs. Rain at the windows, and no one worried about it. Someone laughing loudly near the bar. Someone else crying quietly into a cup of tea. Not alone, not anymore. Children sneaking down the stairs in their night clothes because they could smell the cider warming and thought perhaps that no one would notice. The whole room full before it had any right to be. And that was the trouble. If it had only been a ruin, she might have walked away. If it had only been damp and cracked glass and a roof with opinions about rain, she might have thanked the man kindly and gone home and slept well enough. But it was not only a ruin. It was a cold, sorry building, yes. But it was also a place holding its breath, as though somewhere underneath all that dust, it was waiting. As though it had been waiting a very long time. August had laid one hand on the edge of the bar before she could think better of it. The wood was rough beneath her palm, dry and splintering in one place. The sort of thing she would ordinarily have scolded someone for leaving unfixed. "Careful there," the man had said. "You'll catch yourself." But she had not moved her hand away. The old bar had been cold. Of course it had. There had been no fire in the hearth and no body in the room, and no life in the place worth mentioning. Still, she remembered thinking, foolishly perhaps, but clearly, that the cold of it felt less like emptiness than loneliness, and that was worse. She went home with the smell of old smoke in her hair and the wanting of it under her ribs. It was still there that evening, the wanting, when she sat in her small kitchen, the one she had then, with the door propped open to the warm night, and the kettle going, because the kettle was always going. Her door was always open in those days. People had already started, without quite deciding to, drifting toward her, the stranded, the weary, the ones with nowhere particular to be. She'd take them in and feed them and let them sit and send them off lighter. She'd been doing it for years already in that small way, in that small kitchen. She knew what she was for. She had always known. That part was never in question. What she did not know was how. On the table in front of her lay a page covered in figures. Cost of roof, cost of hearth, cost of windows, cost of beds, Cost of things she did not know the cost of, and therefore feared most of all. Beside it sat the sale notice, folded and unfolded so many times that the crease had begun to soften. She had not meant to keep touching it. Her hands simply kept finding it, the way a tongue finds the place where a tooth used to be. The kettle began to whisper on the stove. August did not get up. That alone would have told anyone who knew her that something was wrong. The kettle whispered louder. Still she sat there, one thumb moving over the edge of the paper, smoothing nothing, fixing nothing, doing no good at all. She had been turning the whole thing over for days and could not see her way clear. She could see the fires lit. She could see the beds full. She could see the door open to anyone. She could see, with a certainty that frightened her, what the old inn could become. She simply could not see how a person survived becoming the one to make it so. There was a footstep outside. Then, without ceremony, a friend appeared in the doorway. The friend came by that evening, the way she always came by, without announcement, exactly when needed, as though she'd simply known. She was the unhurried sort, this friend, the sort who never seemed to be in any rush, and somehow, because of that, made the thing you were frightened of seem smaller and more ordinary and entirely possible. She took one look at August. Then she took one look at the kettle. "Well," she said, "that's a first." August looked up. "What is?" "The kettle calling for help and you ignoring it." "I wasn't ignoring it." "You were absolutely ignoring it." August opened her mouth to argue, found she had no argument worth making, and shut it again. Her friend stepped inside, took the kettle off the heat, and set about August's kitchen as though it were her own. She knew where the cups were. Everyone did. She knew where the tea was kept, and the honey, and the little knife August used for cutting bread. She moved gently, but with a firmness that left no space for objection. She cut 2 pieces from the heel of yesterday's loaf, put honey on one, jam on the other, set them down in front of August, and only then poured the tea. August stared at the bread. "I'm not hungry." "No," said her friend, sitting across from her. "You're frightened. Eat anyway." August gave her a look. Her friend gave it right back, calm as anything. There are very few people in the world who can look after someone who has made looking after others their whole life. This friend was one of them, and so August picked up a slice and took a bite. They sat a while without speaking. Outside, the summer night breathed softly at the open door. Somewhere down the lane, a dog barked once, and then thought better of it. The little kitchen smelled of tea and warm stone, and the green things hiding in the dark beyond the threshold. The lamp on the table burned low and gold, and the sale notice lay between them, not hidden, not touched, not yet. At last, August said, "I can't see how it would work." Her friend did not pounce on the words. She only waited. August turned the cup on the table. "That's the truth of it. I know what I'd make of it. I can see the whole of it, clear as anything. The fire's lit, the bed's full, the door open to anyone. I can see it. I saw it standing there this morning, ridiculous as that sounds. I stood in that cold room with the roof half leaking and the bar half falling down, and I could see it better than I can see this kitchen. That doesn't sound ridiculous." "It does." "It doesn't. It should." August let out a breath. "It would take everything I have and then some, every coin, every hour, years probably, and it might still fail. It might break me before I make anything of it." "Yes," her friend said. August looked at her sharply. "You might try being comforting." "I am being comforting. I'm not lying." That startled a laugh out of August, small and unwilling, but real. Her friend smiled into her tea and waited again. August looked toward the open door. In the distance, over the dark shape of the lane, and the softer dark beyond it. She could just make out one corner of the old inn's roofline. It sat against the summer sky like a hunched shoulder. "I think it's waiting for something," she said, and then immediately looked embarrassed by herself. But her friend did not laugh. "Buildings do that sometimes," she said. August looked back at her. "The right ones," her friend added. "The ones that have been something before and might be something again. They get quiet. They wait." August swallowed. "What if it's not waiting for me?" Her friend reached across the table then, not dramatically, not with any grand gesture, but to lay a hand over August's, stilling the endless circles the teacup was turning. The way you'd quiet a restless thing without remarking on it. "You already know what you are," she said. "You've known it longer than you've known anything. The only thing you don't know yet is where to put it." August was very still. "That's not a small question," her friend went on. "I'm not saying it is. A thing like that needs the right place to live. Walls around it, a roof over it, a door that opens to the right people. Whether the rain gets in matters a great deal, apparently, if that old place is anything to go by. But it's a smaller question than the one you've been frightening yourself with." August looked down at the sale notice. "You're not deciding whether to be the heart of this village," her friend said. "You've been that for years. Half of them are drinking your tea already and don't know how they got the habit. You're only deciding where to put it, and there's a cold, sorry building that has been waiting, I'd say, its whole life, for someone exactly like you to come and warm it up." August did not answer. She could not just then. The room had gone very quiet around the words. Even the night outside seemed to have leaned in a little, the way people do when something true has been said softly and no one wants to scare it off. "It will be hard," August said at last. "It will be terribly hard," her friend agreed comfortably, as though that were rather in its favor. "The best things generally are. You'll pour yourself into it for years and wonder more than once if you've made a dreadful mistake." Again with the comfort, "I told you I'm not lying." Her friend took a sip of her own tea. "But then, one night, a long way from now, you'll look up and find the whole village warm under that roof, and you won't have the first idea how it happened. And it will have been worth more than you can sit here tonight and imagine." August pressed her thumb to the crease in the sale notice. "I'm quite sure of it," her friend said. "I'm rarely sure of things, but I'm sure of you." That was all. They sat there together a long while in the dark. The tea cooled, the lamp burned lower. August ate the bread because her friend looked at her until she did, and eventually, without either of them saying much more, August rose from the table, took her shawl from the peg by the door, and stepped out into the night. Her friend did not ask where she was going. She only came with her. The village was mostly sleeping by then. A few windows still glowed here and there, little squares of gold in the blue dark. The stones of the lane held the day's warmth. Crickets sang under the elm on the green. Above them, the sky was wide and soft and full of stars, and the moon had laid a pale path over the rooftops. The old inn waited, dark and patient and going quietly to ruin. In the dark, it looked worse and gentler than it had by day. The broken places were kinder when they were not being examined. The sag in the roof was only a shadow. The cloudy window caught the moonlight and held it badly, but bravely. The whole building seemed to have tucked itself in, cold and tired and uncertain, like a creature sleeping restlessly. August stood before it for a long time. Her friend stood beside her and said nothing. At last, August went up the step. The door was locked, of course. It was not hers. Not yet. She had no right to open it, no right to enter, no right to begin making promises to a place that would still belong to someone else when morning came. So she did not try the latch. She only laid her hand flat against the old wood. It was cool beneath her palm, rough, weathered, a little damp from the evening air. A sensible person would have felt a door and nothing more, but she felt the quiet of the place behind it. Nothing she could have pointed to, nothing she'd have tried to explain then or in all the years after. But she could have sworn, tired as she was, and full to the brim with the wanting of it, that the old place was listening, that somewhere under all those faults it had been looked over for so long, it had been waiting to be looked at like this, by someone who could feel what it had wanted to be. The wood seemed to settle faintly under her hand. Somewhere inside, something creaked. Just the building cooling after a warm day, perhaps. Just old beams shifting in their sleep. Just one of those small noises old places make when the night gets deep and no one is around to hear them. August smiled anyway. The old inn stood silent beneath the stars. It looked empty, but it did not feel empty to her. And somewhere in that silence, with the warmth of her friend's presence at her shoulder and the cup of tea still steadying her from the inside, August felt the decision settle in her. Not like lightning, not like courage arriving all at once, more like a chair finally finding all four legs on the floor. "I think," she said slowly, "I know where the hearth belongs." Her friend said nothing for a moment. Then she said with great satisfaction, "I thought you might." And that was the night August chose the inn. She had been the one, that night, to be looked after. The kettle put on for her, the cup poured for her, the bread cut and set before her, the steady warm presence sitting with her in the dark, telling her, plainly, that she would be all right. It was very nearly the last time. After that night there was the inn, and there was always someone else who needed the chair, the cup, the looking after, and she was always the one with the kettle. Which was right, which was exactly what she'd wanted, and chosen, and built. But she had been held once, first, before she became the one who does the holding. She bought the sorry, cold, run-down inn. She poured herself into it, every hour and every coin and every ounce of the thing she'd always had in her. And it was terribly hard, just as she'd been promised, and she wondered more than once if she'd made a dreadful mistake. And slowly, and then less slowly, it became warm. The roof stopped letting the weather in. The hearth stopped smoking and settled into the steady warmth it's held ever since. The bar was sanded smooth and pale beneath her own hands, until one day someone rested an elbow on it and said it felt as though it had always been there. The cloudy window was replaced. The floorboards were mended. Beds were bought one at a time, then blankets, then better blankets. The first winter nearly undid her. The second was easier. By the third, people had begun to say, without thinking much of it, "Go up to August's, there'll be room." And there was. Somehow there was. People stopped passing through and started staying. The old building, which had once held its breath in the square, began to breathe again. Smoke rose cleanly from the chimney. Lamplight gathered in the windows. The door opened and closed, and every time it did, the place seemed to learn a little better how to welcome people in. She'd say she taught it everything it knew. She'd be joking, mostly, and somewhere in all those years, no one could tell you the night it happened, least of all August. The building and the woman became, somehow, one single thing, so that now you genuinely cannot say where one ends and the other begins. August would never say so to anyone, not plainly. She is a practical woman after all, and has no patience for making a fuss over the sort of magic that behaves itself quietly and gets on with the work. But there are things a person knows. She knows which stair will complain before it does. She knows when a fire wants another log and when it only wants to be left alone. She knows some mornings, before she has opened the door, that someone will arrive by noon needing food and kindness and a bed near the back where the roof sounds softest in the rain. And the inn, in its way, knows her back. The draughts never quite reach the chair where she stands too long, talking to someone who needs talking to. Small things go missing, but only the ones she's better off not finding until she's sat down for 5 minutes. And once or twice a door she was sure she'd latched has opened in the night, always for someone who needed to come in. No one asks how. It's a bit like asking how the summer knows to come back. You just learn in this village that there will be room at August's, and you stop wondering why, and you go to sleep warm. The fire pops softly, and August comes back to the present from a long way off. The inn is still quiet around her, still warm. The far fiddle has found the end of its tune out on the green, and not bothered to start another, and the murmur of the village has gone soft and sleepy in the warm dark. She has been sitting a long while. Her eyes have grown heavy in the firelight, the way everyone's do in that chair sooner or later, which is half the point of it. And the fire, she notices, has banked itself down further while she wandered, lower and redder and easier than ever, settled for the night, asking nothing. There is a cup at her elbow. She looks at it, a small cup of Greer's cider, cool and gold, on the little table by the chair where a cup would sit if someone had thought to set one there for the person in the chair, which is, after all, what someone always does. She doesn't remember pouring it. She is fairly sure, in fact, that it was not there a moment ago. She looks at it a while, in the firelight, and then she does the thing she has learned, over a great many years, to do about such things, which is to be glad of them and not ask. She picks it up. It's exactly what she'd have wanted, if she thought to want anything, and it's cold and sweet and tastes of orchards, and of the tail end of last autumn, and of 100 summer evenings just like this one. She rests her hand once on the worn arm of the good chair, the way you'd lay a hand on a shoulder. "Thank you," she says, to the room, to the fire, to the whole warm, patient house that held her while she remembered. She says it quietly and a little wryly, the way you'd thank an old friend who has done something kind and pretended not to. And the inn, in its own way, says you're welcome, not in words, but in the deep settled contentment of a place that has, for one summer night, got to look after the one who looks after everyone. The keeper of the hearth, kept. She drinks her cider slowly, in the good chair, by her own warm fire, and lets her eyes close, and there's no other word for it, and it's a word she'd never use about herself, and it's true all the same. She is looked after. The last of the green had long gone quiet. Down the lanes the windows had darkened one by one, and the village had taken itself off to bed without any help from anyone, which was rare enough to be worth noticing. And in the inn that overlooks the green, the fire burned down to its last red, and the one low lamp kept its watch at the foot of the stairs for the sleeping stranger above, and August stayed where she was, asleep at last in the good chair, looked after by the warm, patient house she'd made, and that had somehow made her right back. In the morning, there would be a great deal to do. There always is. She'd be up before any of it, brisk and capable and 3 steps ahead, just as she always is, and you'd never know to look at her that there'd been an evening when she sat still, but she'd carry it with her, the way you carry a good night's rest, the way you carry having been, once, long ago, at a table with a door propped open, and once more tonight, in a chair by a low fire, the most looked-after person in the room. So if ever you find yourself, traveller, run a little thin from the looking after of others, if you're the one who keeps the door open and the kettle on, the one with the chair you'd never dream of sitting in yourself, let me tell you the thing it took August half a lifetime to remember. the chair you keep for whoever needs it most. Some nights, that's you. There is no weakness in being, once in a while, the one who is held. Even the heart of the village was warmed by someone, once, on a long summer night, before it learned to warm everyone else. Go on. Sit down. Let someone look after you for once. Even if tonight that someone is only the quiet of your own room and the dark. The village sleeps now. The inn sleeps. August sleeps, in the good chair, by the low warm fire. And I hope, so do you. From the village hearth to wherever you rest. Be well, traveller. Visit the village again soon.